It's February 19, 2022, about 1:30 in the afternoon. I'm Todd Dunn, and today I'm in Acadia National Park at the Seawall Campground. This is one of my sort of favorite afternoon walks in the winter, but I haven't been in here for a while because of the weather. We have had sort of oscillating weather. It gets cold and snows, then it warms up and it melts. And the result is there's often a lot of ice. And that's the main reason I haven't been in here. So I came in today in the hope that the big melt we had the last few days will have gotten rid of most of the ice. So that's what I'm gonna find out. Also, since I was last in here, there have been at least 3 significant windstorms, 2 of them with winds over 80 miles an hour. So there could well be a few trees down in here. So let's get going and walk in and find out what conditions are like here. It's currently 34 degrees. It went down to 14 last night. And as you can see, the snow did not completely melt out on a good deal of the road. That is ice over there, which I'm not going to walk on, but over here the road is wet. Now where I'm going to go is going to depend on conditions. I don't want to walk on ice if I can help it. And the line to get into the campground does not seem very big right now. There were 3 other cars though parked at the entrance, so there are some people walking in here, although the occupants of 2 of the cars were chatting with each other. Okay, looks like a loop is passable, so let's go in there and see what's up. And I can see that the storms knocked down a bunch of trees, and the National Park Service personnel have been in here cutting them up. So quite a few trees down right here at the entrance to A Loop. Now this happens every winter, but it looks like there were at least 2, maybe 3 trees down here. Actually, there are 3 stumps right there. Those 3 trees must have been down, and another one that is cut off about 2.5 feet up. And I can smell the sawdust. So these are relatively recent cuts, as you can see from the sawdust still on the ground. And here's another tree that broke off someplace and has been cut up, and a tree down across the entrance to site number 1, and the top of a tree broken off going into site number 1. And yet more evidence of trees down across the road here in A Loop. So this, in the years that I've been coming down here, is the largest number of trees down that I have seen. So those big storms knocked down a lot of trees. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 stumps right over here, and lots of cut wood on both sides of the road. So another site with lots of cut wood in it, and more trees down here. There's a stump right there. Looks like there was a tree down along the site there. More brush from fallen trees. There's the stump that they cut off quite close to the ground. And lots of debris. So far, probably, nearly 20 trees down. There's another one back there. And I'm only coming up on, I believe, site 9. So, and there are about 30 sites in this loop. So, a bunch of trees down. Now, every year, these storms, there's more big tree down over by the restroom. Every year, these storms knock trees down, and this campground, which was built by the Works Progress Administration in the 30s, and is a sort of historic campground, has less and less forest every year. There's some more wood stacked up beside the road, and I don't know where this one fell. No sign of it anywhere. As we're up to site 13. Okay, you can see further ahead for a while, up until I get to the back end of the loop here, there are no more trees down. So I'm going to stop filming until I get around to the other side of the loop. Well, I just rounded the corner and I'm on the other side of a loop. This is the entrance to site 23 right here, which looks okay. Here's a tree down on the side of the road, and more of it cut up here, and a little stack of wood back there, and there's another piece of a fallen tree on site 25. So the wind really did a job on A-loop. Typically in a winter there will be 2 or 3 trees down across the road here in this loop, and the Park Service usually waits until spring to cut the trees up, but they've clearly been in here working already this year. And this is site 27. You can see a stack of logs there and some cut wood. So another tree down back there. And I am glad that the Park Service came in and cut these fallen trees up, or this loop would have been quite a challenge. And we've got more tree debris on the road up here as we get further around the loop. As you can see. Now I have to say that in the 23 years that I've lived here, this has been the windiest winter that I've experienced. We've had a few storms with winds up to around 70 miles an hour, but I don't remember any until this year where the winter storms hit 80 miles an hour. There's a big birch tree down back there. Don't know if you can see it, but you see a stump and the body of the tree on the ground. And more cut up fallen trees here at site 34, and a bunch up here, and back in there in site 35, at least another tree down. And just here, there's just stacks of cut up trees. And I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 stumps right there. And don't see any others. But I think this road would have been tough walking if the Park Service hadn't been in here cutting up these fallen trees. And there's a little bit more debris as we get out to the entrance of A Loop. And more debris in there in Site 38. So they have a lot of wood to move and fallen branches to clean up before this loop in the Seawall Campground here in Acadia National Park will be ready to open. So I'm going to continue and we'll take a look at B Loop. Earlier this year there were 3 trees down in B Loop, and we'll see what the last few big storms have done up there. And I'll pick this up when we get into B Loop. Well, here I am at the entrance to B Loop, and I can see that the Park Service has been in there because the big tree that was across the entrance to B Loop last time I was here has been cut up. Oh wow. This loop looks pretty icy, so it's going to be interesting walking. And I may not go very far if it's all ice. Okay. I don't expect as many trees down in here as was the case with A Loop, just because the forest is denser here and consequently the trees are a little more sheltered from the wind. Now they've cut up a tree there, but that tree was down already, and boy, it's above freezing now, and this ice is slippery. So looks like there were a couple trees down up here as we go into B Loop. Going the wrong way here, but I'm just gonna take it slow on this ice, because wet ice is about as slippery as it gets, and I don't want to fall. Okay. It's blowing a bit today, but compared to the last few days, it's much less windy than it has been. It's only maybe blowing. Oh, as I said, wet ice is slippery. Managed not to fall. I did slip a few times. And you can see there's a lot of tree debris down on the road here, which is both positive and negative. It's going to be a bit of a job to clean up, but it does give me some traction on the ice. So continue around B Loop here and see what it looks like further back in. Here is another tree down that they've cut up that was not down before. It's not so icy back here, which makes walking a lot easier. And another tree, so that's 2 additional trees that are down, and then at least one more up here a little bit, The campsites themselves seem to be clear so far. So, as I thought, B-loop did not get hit quite as hard as A-loop did. Although here's more brush down. And there is, that tree came down last year probably. Doesn't have a fresh cut as we continue around the loop. And hopefully I won't hit any more really slick spots. Can see a lot of tree debris on the road up here. More cut up trees on the left there. So that's the 4th tree that's down in here. And there's one that fell in a campsite, so that makes 5 since the last time I was here. Still a lot less than A-loop. And I can see a stack of wood up there, which is tree number 6. And a little ice that I can get past without too much trouble. Here's one that fell the other way. That's number 7. And the road looks pretty icy though, so I'm gonna have to slow down. And there's a tree down there at the entrance to a site, so that's 8 trees. And I'm gonna stop until I get past this ice. Well, I'm managing to walk on crusty snow here, which isn't as slick as the wet ice. But there are spots up here where I'm not going to be able to do that. Here's the 9th tree that's down. Broke off on the other side, fell across here. And this is pretty slippery, even where I can step on the snow. Because there is a good deal of wet ice, and I think the next couple hundred feet are going to be kind of nasty going. So I think I'm going to stop holding the camera till I get past this rather slippery looking ice. Now this part of the path or loop is much more sheltered, and this ice is really slick. Fortunately, there's just enough crusty snow that I can stay on it, and that isn't slippery and can avoid the worst of the ice. And oh, I even have a little bare pavement where I'll be able to walk for a little bit as we approach the 10th downed tree in this loop. And we're getting close to the end of the loop up here. Yeah, there's the icy path over to the restrooms. I do not know what site I am at here because, of course, the site number, which is painted on the road, is covered by ice. I'm glad there's a little crusty snow left here, because if I had a choice of walking on this crusty snow or walking on that ice, I would have turned around. Crusty snow is not slippery. Okay, there are all the trees that were down right at the entrance to the loop. So we don't have much further to go before I am out of B loop. That's site number 1 there, I believe, or 2, and Another side on the other side. As I try to avoid the ice. Okay, this is site 2 here, and site 1 with the 11th tree of the loop down. One of these trees here was down before. I think this big one here, and the stuff further up, I don't know if that's, oh, there's another one that was down. So that makes 12 trees down on this loop. So that is not very many trees down compared to A loop, where I'd say there were at least 30 trees down. So the Park Service has had a lot of work to do to get this all cleared out. We're supposed to get more snow this afternoon, which is the reason I decided to come down here today, because if this is covered with an inch or so of snow, it will be treacherous to walk on because you won't be able to tell where the ice is. And I'm looking at how I'm going to get out of here and minimize the amount of ice I have to walk on. So I think what I'm going to do is stop filming, because I don't want to fall down and have my camera slide away on the ice. Well, I made it out of B loop. I had to walk about 50 feet of wet ice to do it, which was slow, but I managed. And I hope you enjoyed seeing the Seawall Campground here on February 19, 2022. A lot of trees down. I think I counted at least 40 trees down, mostly in A loop. Now the loops further back in the campground will be more sheltered and probably didn't have as many trees down, but it looked pretty icy going back to C and D loop, so I opted not to go in there. At any rate, if you enjoyed this little walk today, please give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't, why don't you consider subscribing to my channel and maybe even going wild and clicking that notification bell. Thanks for watching.